Skill checks in Dungeons and Dragons. We've talked about them 1,000 times, and we'll keep talking about 1,000 times. Because here's a couple of things that I do with skill checks, specifically in Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder, and pretty much any TTRPG, I apply the same rules. That's because there's a lot of problems with skill checks. So let's talk about it. The first problem with skill checks in most TTRPGs is that anyone that has the skill or doesn't have the skill, regardless of proficiency, can roll. On a D20 system, this creates problems. If I roll on that D20 and I get a 20 and the DC is, let's just call it a 16 because it's not easy, I can pass, even as an untrained. Or maybe if I only have a +1, pure luck of the roll. At the same time, if I have a +6 that I am well adept and I roll a 9, I fail. Now, this is partially due to skill mechanics, right? Skill mechanics are something that make it a game. If there wasn't the mechanics, it wouldn't be a game, and then this would kind of be mute. However, this works in a lot of cases and creates a lot of wonderful role-playing scenarios when someone that shouldn't pass a skill check does. And I love that. At the same time, when I'm role-playing or creating a game, I have different ways of doing this. The first way that I handle skill checks when it comes to proficiency is I don't require a check. Imagine someone goes into a room and has the skill arcane knowledge, or arcane, or religion, and there's a ritual or something written down in an arcane language or religious language or something of that nature. The person that has that skill will automatically recognize what those things are. They get an automatic success to understanding what's going on. Now, does that mean they actually know what the religion is or what the specific ritual is? No, that's where the check comes in. But if no one in the party has arcane knowledge, well, no one knows what the markings are. They don't have the slightest idea. Then I require an intelligence check, not an arcane check. Someone can roll an intelligence check. Then it is random luck of the draw. The person that gets a 20 has seen these things in the past, somewhere in their life. Someone that actually rolls low has never seen this particular thing before. So we utilize that having the proficiency and the skill gives an automatic success to some degree. The person that doesn't have any success will have an understanding of what that is. What that ritual is exactly, they will never understand that. I also have automatic failures when it comes to skill checks. If you're not proficient in arcane, there's a handful of things that you will not be able to accomplish. The same thing goes for climbing. There are walls that you will be unable to climb if you don't have proficiency in climbing. It's just not feasible. You don't have the knowledge to actually make that climb happen. As a climber, you will see handholds that the average untrained eye does not see. Now, there are some places where a climber could still fall, even though someone that may be not proficient may. Well, the reason I do this is there are certain situations where simply having the skill automatically yields success. I'll even do this with things such as perception, investigation, insight. Is if you have the skill, there's a bit of knowledge that I give to you immediately. This makes it so you taking that proficiency is rewarded by you having that advanced piece of knowledge. That may even give you the idea of, hey, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and roll a check on this. Now, when do I roll checks when it comes to skills? That's another question. Not every single skill check actually requires a roll. I will have someone roll when there's duress, when there's a time frame, when there's stakes on the line. If there's no stakes on the line and someone has all the time in the world, they can roll a 10. Now, here's the thing. In Dungeons and Dragons, this is actually in the rule set, taking a 10 or even taking 20, right? If you have unlimited time, you can take your time, you can roll that 20. But that means there has to be no negative consequences on failure. Meaning if you're picking a lock, and that lock doesn't have a fail-safe that if someone tries to pick it, it locks permanently, there's no problem. You can keep trying and trying and trying. Now, if you're picking a lock where a fireball might go off or it's trapped or something along those lines, then absolutely, we're going to need a roll. If you only get one opportunity to do something, the roll happens. Now, you may want to stack your deck in that favor. Maybe by you having lock-picking expertise, you can see, hey, I know this lock. I know that if I mess up on this lock and fail, it's going to lock itself permanently. That bit of information helps you then say, okay, I need help. Guidance is cast, or any other, I'm going to use my advanced lock-picking skills. I'm going to use my x-ray goggles that I only have one to use per day. All of a sudden, I'm going to stack the deck in my favor to make sure that I succeed on this roll. There's nothing wrong with that. You have to understand that skills are dynamic in every game that I play, regardless of system. Now, Pathfinder has something that I absolutely love, which is the success and failure have a varying degree, right? So if I succeed by an exuberant amount, I get additional information. If I fail just by a little bit, I get most success with maybe a drawback. I love that idea. That idea doesn't have to be just applied to Pathfinder. Any TTRPG you're playing can utilize that if I succeed or if I fail by varying degrees, my result is different. Now, as a new dungeon master, I'm not a big fan of the varying degrees of success and failure. Why is that? Because it adds one more thing to your plate. I've been a dungeon master for 30 years at this point. It's actually longer than that, but it's very easy for me to come up with small failures or small successes on the fly, depending on the party. Such as if someone is picking a lock and all of a sudden they're trying to get through, they've got guys that are behind them that are trying to get them, they get the lock, what happens? The lock is now jammed open and the pick is stuck inside. Yes, they failed, but they still succeeded opening the lock. But now they can't lock the door behind them. They're going to have to find a different way to do it. Now they could do, the mage decides to cast, what is it? Change water? It's the spell, that's the cantrip that allows you to mold water around a 5-foot cube. Then he's going to freeze it, right? Completely forgot the spell's name, but you get the point. They're going to have to think outside the box to lock that door. Skill checks are an amazing storytelling tool that I encourage you to use in a variety of different ways. One, proficiency should be rewarded. Just because someone else rolls higher than the person that's proficient doesn't mean they succeed in the same way. They may have a different understanding when they get that check. Number two, allowing people to succeed when they're not proficient creates for wonderful opportunities when it comes to role playing. Number three, engaging with the players on a variety of success and failures. That's a huge part of this. And four, which I think is the most important, is skills not being strictly pass or fail. Meaning if I'm climbing and I fail a skill check, do I plummet to my death? Well, that's very anticlimactic and that kind of sucks. So maybe I make a strength check to see if I can hold on with the arm that's still on there instead of a dexterity check. You can change things up to have the skills integrate with one another and create very dynamic skill challenges for players that are normally skill jockeys. Also, allow your skill-focused players to have a place to shine. For those players that love skills, that love to be that I can have a thing for every situation, let them. But also understand that those that don't have skill checks, allow them to shine too. How do you do that? How do you allow someone that doesn't have a whole bunch of proficiencies to shine? Allow for intelligence checks, dex checks, chinks checks. Allow them to have checks that rely on their brute physicality or their brute intellect as opposed to just having a proficiency. We like to roll dice. And in the end, if we roll a dice and we get an outcome, that's even that much more exciting. Allowing people to succeed, but also when they fail, having it being narrative. Those are some of the biggest things I can tell you when it comes to skill checks across any TTRPG. And of course, as always, guys, if you like our channel, like, subscribe, stick around after this. We have some exciting news about Hero Soul. And as always, we will see you next time. Welcome to Hero Soul. So what is Hero Soul? Hero Soul is a free version of D&D based upon the Creative Commons license that WotC actually gave to us. I was waiting for someone to come out with a free version of D&D or an alternative. And instead, what I've got is a lot of very different games, a lot of very cool games when the whole OGL debacle. And WotC doing stupid stuff all the time, creating all sorts of calamity. I wanted to play Dungeons & Dragons, but I was tired of supporting WotC. So what have I done? I'm creating Hero Soul. We have a Patreon. Join our Patreon and be part of the process of the creation of this game. I'm not going to post a ton of stuff here on the YouTube channel about Hero Soul. I'm not. But what I am going to do is post a whole bunch of it on our Patreon. If you're a free member, be part of it. You will have access to Hero Soul. You'll get the PDFs as they're updated, as they get posted. You'll also have access to everything else. If you're a paid member, you're going to get behind the scenes videos and all that kind of stuff. The bottom line is, if you want a free version of Dungeons & Dragons that you can download for free, join Hero Soul and be part of the conversation. Don't like something that's in the rules? Speak your mind and let's have a conversation and see if we should change it or not. And in the end, you will download the free version of the PDF. And we're talking about a free, full version with monsters, new lore, new races, new ways of doing things, but all based upon the Creative Commons license. You can take Hero Soul and smack it right dab in 5th edition, and it will function just fine. So join us with our Patreon and Hero Soul and let your voice be heard in the creation. This is not a Kickstarter. I don't care. We will eventually have a printed book. We'll get there. But as a community, let's create this game together. Join us and let's start our journey with Hero Soul. I need some help. I'm by myself. I need people to do Discord. I need people to do all that kind of stuff. But right now, I swear to God, I just saw something behind that tree as it's getting dark out here. So I'm going to leave. Join us at Patreon. Let's do some Hero Soul development. And let's have a free version of Dungeons & Dragons, which is owned by the community. See you then. As always, next time. Yay!